Hello, welcome to this week's How's the Market, Pensacola. Well, texting's not allowed. Texting is not allowed. No, I'm not talking about driving, although you're not supposed to be texting when you're driving. I'm talking about in real estate. Now, not everybody follows the FAR bar contract here in the state of Florida. FAR bar stands for the Florida Association Realtor. Florida bar, i.e. the lawyers. They have a contract out there. Not everybody follows that. CSX, they have a couple of different contracts, and then people write up their own contracts. And I get that. That's the one unique thing about real estate is it's, well, unique. But one of the things I figured out, and that came out from the Florida Association of Realtors now, is that texting is no longer going to be considered a legal form of communication when it comes to deadlines. Now, let me explain. When we do a FAR bar contract or any other contract, it should have a deadline to respond. Hey, you have X days to sign. I'm making you an offer, I'm giving you 2 days to review the offer, and then you respond. Or I'm making you a counter offer, and you have 2 days to respond, or a day to respond. I have seen some come over with like 15 minutes to respond, and I'm like, yes, not even realistic, but you know, you can put it there. Again, we go back to the uniqueness of real estate. It's there, but it used to be, until now, I could text back and forth with the other agent, with my seller, with my buyer, and that would be binding enough. Hey, we did that at 11:59 at night before the deadline hit, so it worked. Here's the text, Your Honor. They're now saying texting is not going to be good enough anymore. You have to do others. Now, of course, the courts, the association, all of that is not saying that you can't text. There's a lot of people that prefer texting as a communication. I'm not saying you can't text. What I'm telling you is that's not going to count as a form of communication or an authorized form of communication for acceptance, counters, negotiations, whatever. You need to put that in a different form of communication. Probably an email would be best. Even if you just re-email and everybody acknowledges the email or got a red receipt or whatever, what you were texting before. That's fine. But texts themselves are not going to be considered authorized forms of communication. So there's a little legal thing to start off the week, right? I know that I had to bring that up to my agents because I know I have some agents that are text fiends, and that's like their preferred method of contact, and most of their clients are the same way. I don't even know if they would recognize each other if they were standing beside each other, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. We're just not going to be able to have that as a legal form of communication to be held up in court saying, I did agree to this. No, not if it came in the form of a text. Nope, not if it came in the form of a text. But there we go. That's kind of the legal eagle for the week. Why don't we actually get to our two counties and see what type of inventory we're looking at as we've come out of the middle of September. Let's go. All right, if you've never seen the show, you don't know that I always start with this slide right here. It says if we have between 6 and 7 months worth of inventory, we have what's called a neutral market. Anything greater than 7 months considered a buyer's market. Anything less than 6 months considered a seller's market. What the slide does not say, anything greater than 9 months considered a hyper buyer's market. Anything less than 3 considered a hyper seller's market. Let's jump over and start with Escambia County. And as you can see, if you've never seen the show, over here on your price points, over here is your estimated month's inventory. That makes that first slide make a much more sense. So looks like everything up to about $550,000 is still sitting in a hyper seller's market. The $550,000 or the $500,000 to $550,000 is at 2.7. So it's still under our definition, under 3. So we're categorizing it as a hyper sellers, but it's starting to get to just a sellers. And if you look at that $550,000 to $600,000, we've grown in inventory and the demand has actually come down a little bit. So we're at 4.1 months worth of inventory, which means we are right in the middle of a seller's market. Would I market things differently now between the 550 to the 600,000 mark? I would. I would mark them slightly different. Because on this slide, let me pull that slide back up. Each one of these, including the two that are not on this slide, right? They all have a different marketing strategy as a seller. They all have a different offering strategy as a buyer. So, and I jump back over here, and the luxury under our definition of 3.3 months is more than 3 months, but less than 6. That would be considered a seller's market. Would my marketing strategy or my buying strategy change? Not here, because we're too close to a hyper seller's. So I would advise using a hyper seller's marketing strategy both as a seller and an offering strategy as a buyer. Whereas up here at 4 to 4.5 months, we're starting to fit slowly or solidly into the seller's market, not a hyper seller's market. So does that change things? Yeah, it does. Perhaps we're not going to be going over list or much over list. Or perhaps we are going to ask for a little bit of concessions. There's some things that start to change there. Now, you can't go crazy with it and go, listen, I'm going to offer you 20% below asking price. I want you to pay all the closing costs. I want you to concede 6%. No, that's a hyper buyer's. So that's pushed too far. But can we change a little bit? Yeah, you can. Just a little. Besides that, looks like everything is a hyper seller's market. The 150,000 to 200,000 in Escambia County, 0.6 months. We still just have drastically low inventory for the lower price points. But as we've seen over the past weeks, this number of active right here, total active, is slowly rising. Read an article this morning saying that demand is starting to slow a little bit. Yeah, you're right, you can. Remember, I've said this on the show multiple times. Watch the premise. When you start to see demand is slowing just a little, yeah, okay, well, that's a very quantitative number, right? Just a little. No, that's seasonal for us. Demand normally slows right as school starts back up. Does it mean that we're not still hyper sellers? No. It just means it's starting to slow a little. All right. Do I think that, is it going to slow as we get into Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas? Sure. That's seasonal. We can't count 2020. 2020 was a weird year. Everybody wasn't in school. They were all at home, and, that was a weird year anyways. But going back to 2019, all the teens, yeah, sure, this time of year things start to slow a little in the summer heat. Watch the premise. Watch your headlines and people making premises and conclusions that don't belong. Let's jump over to Santa Rosa County. Again, our actives are climbing. They are slowly climbing, but not much. I got 9 active between the 100,000 and 150,000 mark. I've got 15 active between the 150,000 and 200,000 mark. Everything in Santa Rosa County is showing up as a hyper seller's market except the luxury. The luxury at 700,000 plus is showing up as just a seller, so it's slightly over that 3 months inventory. But just like I said on the earlier one, I would not change my strategy in Santa Rosa County at all. I think everything's a hyper seller, both on the buyer side and the seller side. So those are the strategies that we're going to implement when we're trying to get something locked up, both sides of the table in Santa Rosa County. Well, that's it. That's your numbers for this week. Next week, I won't be in studio. I'm going to try and get the show done. I won't be in studio, but I've got a RE/MAX convention I've got to go get to. So it's definitely going to be a little less. I might not have the shield behind me. We may have something else, but that's all right. I think we're going to get some stuff done. I'm expecting a lot out of that conference because it's a little bit smaller. And it's more towards top producers, and so some of the folks that I know I have already chatted with, I'm looking forward to seeing again around the country, so that I can get some better ideas for all of us here as well. So that's it. That's all we got this week. Middle of September. September's almost. It's halfway done practically. So that's crazy. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. I'm a man on a mission. My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and don't need no permission. I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth?